I actually think this is a scam just targeting you, Ed. One of the interesting consequences of developing a fairly large social media following is that your followers eventually figure out the kind of cars that you like, and they start sending you the Ed Bolian version of weird cars for sale. They find the high mile, the bad story, the bad history, the stuff that they know that I would be a prospective buyer for, and they send me the listings when they find them. And I don't get to respond to all of them, but I do appreciate it, and I pretty much read all of them regardless of whatever messaging platform they come through. And so a few days ago, immediately I got several messages. 4 or 5 different people sent me a listing on Craigslist in Tampa Bay, Florida. And it was for a 2007 Lamborghini Reventón with a ton of miles and a weird story. And they're like, this seems like your car. And I was like, wow, it's still a big expensive car, and I don't know that I could swing it, but yes, it is absolutely the crazy Ed Bolian version of a Lamborghini Reventón. Now in 2007 and 8, Lamborghini made 20 of the Reventon, which was kind of a derivation of the LP640, which had just been released as kind of the more advanced version of the Murcielago, and it had kind of a fighter jet inspired look to the car. And it was really a very pure exhibition of what a concept car should be. It was Lamborghini showing off what they could do with a car that they knew wasn't exactly what most of their clients would be looking for. It was something that had a little bit more of an edge to it, was just kind of stylish for stylish sake, and kind of blended as we like to see, planes, boats, watches, different things that kind of complement the automotive industry in this crazy car. And it was in this Grigio Reventon matte gray paint, kind of like the Grigio Titans that eventually became available on the Lamborghini Aventador. And actually, when the Aventador came out in 2011 for 2012 model year in the US, it was very much inspired by the angularity that we saw on the Reventon. When we described it to the prospective buyers as a dealer, once we came back from the first unveiling of it, we said it's got kind of a slightly smoothed Reventon look. So the angularity was definitely a direction that Lamborghini was going in. And additionally, it had the carbon racing seats with this military green Alcantara on them and brown leather and carbon fiber inserts on the wheels, and just every panel was touched a little bit to look a little bit more like a crazy fighter jet. And they did these photo shoots with it driving next to taking off jets and people in flight suits, and it was just a really, really cool car. Not designed to be mainstream or accepted by everyone, just a really, really cool car. I always liked the car. I thought it was a really cool thing, but you don't ever dream of owning a Lamborghini Reventon. Even if you happen to become a buyer of $1 million or $2 million cars, it's just not something you really think about that often because you never see them pop up for sale. Very occasionally they'll come up for sale at auctions with 200 or 900 miles, not really driven. And the last couple had brought like $1.3 to $1.4 million. And so nothing that I would normally be interested in. But this car supposedly had 70,000 miles and wasn't in perfect working order. And it had previously been owned by Ramzan Kadyrov, who apparently was the former president of Chechnya. And a quick Google search reveals that yes, this guy did own a Lamborghini Reventon, and he drove it a lot in a convoy of other exotic cars. There were a lot of articles online sort of pointing out the hypocrisy of this slightly oppressive leader of this war-torn, scarred country driving around in a motorcade of multi-million-dollar cars. Like, it was a strange thing, but clearly this guy did own a car. And the description that was available in the Craigslist listing, along with one picture which kind of matched some of the other pictures available on the internet of this Reventon that he did own, photographed in, I guess, Chechnya or Russia, wherever. It was all kind of made sense, and it said, look, it's cheap because it's got a ton of miles, it's not perfect, and it's imported from Russia. So I'm like, wow, this really is the perfect version of this car for me. I don't know how I'm going to come up with 340 grand. I guess I'm going to have to call Mitch at Premier Financial and say, hey, we got to wire some money real fast, but I'm very, very interested. And so I immediately dispatch an email because there's no phone number to this ad. And I say, hey, what's the VIN? Can I get some more pictures? And what's the story with the title? And if it is good, I'm going to take it. I'll come down from Atlanta tomorrow. Tampa's a 4 or 5 hour, 6 hour drive. I'll take the LP640 down with a friend and we'll drive them both back the next day. Like, this is a perfect idea. I'm in if it's real. And so I just sit there kind of bated breath, watching my email box, hoping to get a quick response. And anytime you see a deal like this that's kind of too good to be true, but I guess it kind of makes sense. Like, how much would it depreciate a car like this to have that kind of mileage and be in bad shape? I mean, who could guess what 70,000 miles through Russia would do to a matte, very delicately painted Lamborghini. I mean, the car would be a cosmetic basket case, as most of the ones that I buy are, so this sounds perfect. Like, I'm interested, maybe it makes sense, but the protection that you find is not in not contacting the people. You want to try, but obviously I'm going to say if it's a real deal, then I'm going to come down there with certified funds that you can immediately verify, and I'm going to take the car and the title in person. We're not doing any weird escrow services, things like that. This is going to be an easy in-person deal if the car's real. And so I wasn't too worried about the risks of, a scam. I really want to know, is there any chance this car is real? So of course, the next thing you do after you find a really, really cool car listed for sale is you send it to all your friends. So I send the listing immediately to John Tamarian at Curated and Doug Tabbitt, and I'm like, hey guys, look what I found. Look how cool this is going to be. Kind of pointing to the stands like it's going to be the next home run, awesome Ed car deal. And Tamarian immediately says, I'll offer him 300 grand. I'm like, no, John, if the car's real, we're going to buy it. I mean, who knows what it's worth? Maybe it's worth a little more, a little less, but it's the coolest Ed Bolian story Lamborghini Reventon that could ever exist. I'm having it. He's like, okay, I'll take it. I was like, no, you don't get to buy it. This is just me telling you how cool it's going to be when I get it. But he's like, all right, well, I'll come meet you in Tampa if it's real. I'm like, whatever. We'll figure that out hopefully tomorrow. And Tabbitt, though, offered a very interesting insight. He said, Ed, I know car scams, and he does. Doug is absolutely the connoisseur of how you scam someone with a car, and he's been party to so many of them, and he loves messing with automotive scammers. He was like, whenever you want to mess with the prospective audience of buyers, you don't use a Lamborghini Reventón. You don't use some obscure car that not that many people want, and certainly that even cheap, it would still be beyond what most people could even figure out a way to afford. You use a Huracan or a Superleggera, and you make it 30% less than everybody knows it ought to be. I mean, you put a 2011 LP570 Superleggera out there for $95,000 that everybody knows is a screaming deal. They all start responding, and then you tell them you want a $5,000 Western Union deposit through some eBay subsidiary escrow company while you're out of the country on some tour of duty that's admirable, and you need to pay them a little bit more, and they need to refund you the difference. All the normal car scam things you don't do on a super rare car that only is interesting to this niche audience. So he's like, Ed, I think this is a scam just targeting you. And I was like, wow. I mean, I hadn't thought about that. I mean, usually if there's a too good to be true car that's not really like a scam to get money out of somebody, the scam is that there will be a phone number, and the goal will be that you just blow up one of their friends' phones. They know their friend's going to be away from the phone for a few hours, few days, and they come back to 500 voicemails and text messages, people begging to bring them boxes of cash for this way too good to be true special car that a lot of people like. I mean, if you go shopping for M4s or Porsche 911s, you'll start to see a lot of those because those are widespread interest cars, and people do that all day long. He said, no, Ed, I think you would be the only person that would legitimately be interested in that, and you've kind of made that pretty clear to your internet audience. I think somebody just wanted you to email them. I'm like, well, I hope not. I hope this thing's real. We'll see what happens. But the night goes by, no response. The next morning I get up, no response. I run a few errands, and I was like, well, I'm going to check back. I reload the ad and just see if it's been taken down. And it's still there, but now there's a phone number, and it's a 727 area code, kind of the Tampa Bay region. So I call it immediately. There's even a name, and so the guy picks up the phone, says that's who it is, and I said, hey, I'm calling about the Lamborghini Reventon that you have for sale. He's like, the what? I said, the 2007 Lamborghini Reventon for sale on Craigslist in Tampa. Is it your car? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And normally, if you do run into a scam where somebody's just trying to make you call their friend, they just pick up the phone and they go, I don't have that M3 for sale. They're fed up with all the calls they're getting. They're just trying to use their phone. In this case, he had no idea. I was probably the first call that he'd gotten. It was news to him. He says, well, I guess someone just put the wrong number in there. I was like, the wrong number and the wrong name? Who knows? Maybe this is the one legitimate car for sale that's slightly too good to be true and perfect for what I might want. That happens to, he just typed the number wrong and doesn't respond to his emails. All right, well, whatever. So I immediately hang up and I dispatch another email to the randomized Craigslist address. And I'm like, hey, the phone number you gave seems to be incorrect, but I'm still interested. Like, is the car available? And he says, still got it, but the car cannot be titled. And I was like, well, Maybe you don't think it can. I've got my ways. Like, you know, will you show and display title, something? I don't know. I'm still interested. Like, tell me more. What is the VIN? Tell me pictures, whatever. What can you tell me about the car? And I get another quick response that really is not useful. And I'm like, can I come see it tomorrow? And then finally the guy just comes out and says, sorry, man, this was just a scam to try to get people to call my friend. And I just, you know, never would have imagined that Ed Bolian was going to email me about it. I love your videos. I was like, wow. Well, flattered and appreciated. I definitely appreciate the viewership, but gutted that this is not a real car. And so I told him, I was like, you know, if you want to get people to call your friend, don't use a car that I'm the only real buyer for. I mean, I would never expect to be bidding against a wide audience on such a unique and kind of narrowly focused car from the day it was new, and then focused even more by being a bad example of it. And so, alas, I lived this interesting 12 hours thinking I might have my Verde Draco 640 and a 70,000 mile beat up Lamborghini Reventton parked next to it in the garage, but I guess no such luck. I'm sure it's still in Russia somewhere. We'd like to thank Avalon King for their continued support of the VINwiki YouTube channel. Obviously, I've installed it onto my Porsche 993, which one of our app users is going to win once we hit 1 million subscribers. I've got it on the LP640 and it's performed flawlessly in both cases. The cars are much easier to clean, the finish looks a lot better, and I've really been impressed with it. So we're going to do some more experimentation with the ceramic coating this month, but please do check out the link in the description below, enter the code VINwiki for a discount, and thank them for supporting your favorite YouTube channel.